Go.
Okay. Hey, everybody.
Hey.
How'd you like it? Hidden Figures. You had to wonder if you didn't know what it was about. What do you mean, Hidden Figures? But we found out in detail. This movie was released at the end of 2016 and also into 2017. It was directed by Theodore Melfi, had a budget of only 25 million, if you can imagine. The box office was 236 million for this movie. I loved hearing that. Pardon me while I flip through my pages here. It's based on a book that was written by Margot Lee Shetterly. Her father was a research scientist at Langley for NASA. So she lived in Hampton, Virginia. So she was exposed to all of this scientific stuff and she just ate it up. She started writing the book in 2010. And from there, somebody bought up the rights and eventually made it into this movie. So the main three women, main three characters, there were many other stars in this, but you had Taraji P. Henson, who was Katherine Johnson, Octavia Spencer, who was Dorothy Vaughan, and Janelle Monáe, who was Mary Jackson. So this movie was about breaking boundaries. It was about diversity. It was about gender equality, civil rights, but how it all came together, uniting for space exploration. And that's what happened. So Katherine Johnson was born in 1918. She died in 2020. So she lived to be 101 years old. Dorothy Vaughan, who was born in Kansas City, Missouri, was born in 1910 and died in 2008. So she was 98 years old. And Mary Jackson, who's played by Janelle Monáe, who was actually from Kansas City, Kansas, she was born in 1921 and died in 2005. So she was 83 years old. And at the age of 97, Katherine was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom by President Obama. And she also celebrated her 56th anniversary with Jim Johnson, her husband. So that was pretty cool. So what did not happen? It's based on the book, right? So you know there's some stuff that they made up. The bathroom smashing the sign that said, you know, the colored bathroom by the boss that Kevin Costner played, Harrison, that did not really happen. But I thought it was funny that he said that we aren't going to have these separate bathrooms because we all pee the same color. So, yeah, that's my sense of humor. The coffee pot that was labeled colored, that was not true. The letting Katherine into Mission Control was not true. Mission Control was actually at Cape Canaveral, and they were at Hampton, Virginia.
Langley,
yeah, Langley. So the three women were actually not close friends. So that's a pretty cool twist that the movie puts on the whole thing. But I have to tell you, I got a little emotional in a few of the places, but that's just me. I want to know what y'all thought about this. And who wants to go first?
Well, I will, because you picked it, and because you're the only female member of our club right now. How did it hit you? I want to know, when you said you got emotional, how did it hit you that made you emotional?
Well, the fact that Katherine Johnson, that Harrison stood up for her. I mean, her immediate boss, Stafford, that was played by Jim Parsons, he was a real, you know what. But Harrison saw through that. He goes, to Stafford goes, I want you to go find the genius among these geniuses. And of course it was her. And just, when she got engaged, all that goofy, sappy shit that goes, stuff that goes on. I just enjoyed the story so much. I felt it was just so heartwarming, and I felt proud to be a woman that these three ladies were such trailblazers in such a huge part of our history.
Chris, you probably know that both the Costner and Parsons character are combinations of multiple people that they encountered at NASA.
Yes, they weren't real on their own, so to speak. So yeah, but it was good the way he did it, and I love that Costner gave her a string of pearls. They kept her in the department. So
if you're putting a movie together and you need to have protagonists, these three are very sympathetic. It's easy to pull for them, and then you line them up against the antagonists, which include Russia, racism, anti-feminism, gravity. They had everything going against them. So it's an easy movie to watch and pull for the protagonist, because all the forces are coming at them from all directions. Unfortunately, or maybe it's just a recognition of how you make a movie that much money, is I thought the two most impactful scenes were the bathroom sign scene and the colored coffee pot scene, because those were dramatic gestures of we're not gonna do this anymore. And I'm sorry to hear that they were fictional, but as terms of movie making, I understand, because it struck me as those were the two milestones that they kind of jumped the movie forward. But in terms of a movie that starts and you got to figure out who you're for and who you're against, there are so many people to be against that it's hard not to be for the people you're for. I think it's a great movie, and I know it was nominated and won all sorts of awards. It didn't win an Oscar. My only complaint with the movie is some of the things that related to spaces and time, where look at us, we're chasing a white cop in 1961, and some of the things that are obviously gestures towards where we are versus where we were a little ham-handed, I thought, and a little, over the top. But just like the bathroom sign and the coffee pot sign, sometimes you have to do things that are in your face to make the point.
Well, they weren't actually chasing the cop. The cop was leading them to work because he knew that they were late from the car breaking down.
No, I know, but they said, imagine us, here we are, three black women chasing a white cop in the back roads of Virginia in 1961. I'm pretty sure that conversation didn't happen, but it was necessary.
Well, Mary Jackson said that it was a God-ordained miracle.
Yeah, right.
I found that humorous.
Yep.
Okay.
Well, did in your research, did it say which parts of this did happen? I guess the three women were what they said they were, but
no,
John Glenn got to space. I know that.
Yeah, and John Glenn actually called on Katherine to verify the trajectory when he was having problems. He said, I want this smart woman. She got her way into that meeting of all of the, I don't know if it was Pentagon people or who it was, when she started, putting all of her figures up on the board, and then all the men, their chins were dropping to the floor. But John Glenn was so impressed by her that when he knew that he was in trouble, he asked for her to check the calculations. The computer, the new IBM, whatever number it was wrong. And she found the mistake and probably saved his life. And she went on to work on Apollo missions, the moon landing, several other things. And then Dorothy Vaughan, she was actually considered to be probably the smartest of the three. She was the lady that set up all the computer operations, and she was just brilliant. And Mary Jackson got her degree as an engineer, the very first African-American woman engineer at NASA. But she was after it. She knew what was wrong with the heat shields, and she was going to fix it. So yes, there's a lot true. There's more true than not, Bill.
Good.
Well, I, for one, was extremely disappointed in this movie. Nobody got shot.
Oh my God, I picked the wrong one.
But
Was a space
there were
shot.
dogs that were being held back by state troopers. I think there was nearly bloodshed.
Funny, Terry.
Dogs didn't die, but a few of them lost a tooth.
So
Did
you
you
liked
see the
it
movie,
otherwise?
Terry?
Oh yeah, yeah. That was enjoyable. Yeah. I like the real footage that was put in there, and then they changed some of the, they made it look like a faded 60s photograph in some of the filming and cinematography. I like that.
That's all NASA has is faded 60 video.
I know, but then I think some of the other, didn't they kind of doctored it to make the regular filming look that way? Seemed like it to me. I don't know.
One of the reasons this movie was fun for me is, I spent 2 years at the Kennedy Space Center and saw all those launch pads and all those controls, and the scene where she is running, she runs out, and there's a guy that goes to get her and then gets her, and she gets her calculations and runs back and runs into the building that says NASA. That is not the NASA building in Langley. That is the NASA administration building at Kennedy Space Center. And because I've been multiple times, but when they went through those doors, they went in as if it was to the Langley Launch Center, which at the time, the launch center at Langley was no longer the launch center. The launch center was in Cape Canaveral. Anyway, it was just fun for me because I've been through all those places and I know which thing is which. And so I would get to watch the movie, go, oh, I've been there. Oh, I've been there.
Did you have to run to find a bathroom?
I didn't. I just peed in the canals next to the road.
So Mike Mahoney, what did you think?
This is not the first time I've seen the movie. I enjoyed it. One of the things I thought, on a couple of those scenes where she was running around, it struck me that they could get John Glenn on the phone on the launch pad, but they couldn't pick up a phone on the campus at Langley and call the coordinates over the phone. That struck me as odd. The other thing is, well, I thought this was a really good film. To which point about them having a variety of almost unlimited number of villains to pick on. I thought that some of this was treading over plowed ground. It was a different perspective from the women and their involvement and their struggle, but at the same time, this was not the first, and certainly probably won't be the last movie. I think it borrowed heavily from The Right Stuff, for one, and it was an engaging film. I'm not taking anything away from it, but I don't think it broke any new ground, other than detailing these women's struggles with the institutions that they were confronted with. So it was a good movie. but like I say, I don't think it broke any new ground. I'm not sure it's. I liked it, but wasn't blown away by it. I'll leave it like that. And then the other thing is, there's an implication on this in this movie that that Glenn was supposed to have 7 orbits. He was never scheduled for 7 orbits. It was always going to be 3. Their goal was to get high enough into space that they would have been capable of 7 orbits, but it was always supposed to be a 3-orbit mission. So,
but in the it's not new ground that's been plowed, but is it worth it that the ground that's been plowed gets dug up again, because we might see things we didn't see the first time? You know, the black women scientists, computer geeks, to me, is new territory. Now the background that it was played against, which was space and Cold War and all that, but the two, to me, I thought it was new, interesting territory. Or if it's been plowed before, is it worth being plowed up again? Just
fair point.
Just to add to the conversation.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, he said like the right stuff, but he's talking about space. He's not necessarily talking about black women, the path forward for black women, I think. So I kind of see what Gary's saying and agree with that. I mean, there are very few movies that do this, you know. Sure.
Well, some of the villains were the same,
Yeah.
like Russia and Gravity and the bureaucracy of the government and NASA and the bureaucracy of the government in general, the struggle between the various parts of defense and NASA, who was going to control space exploration. You know, all of that was there before. But I mean, what makes a fair point about through the perspective of three women that were obviously facing lots of challenges just beyond the math.
Mm-hmm.
And I said before, my problem with the movie is not the ground it covers. It was the jingoistic language when they give Kevin Costner these speeches, little mini speeches, to talk about what a challenge space is or what a challenge Russia is. To me, I thought that was, lowbrow stuff. But it's good to see brother Jeff Copeland. I haven't seen him in a while. Are you? You look like you're in a cell. Are you in incarceration?
He's in the classroom.
You're
you're
also muted, Jeff.
You're muted.
Thank you. Well, Mahoney's got the proper color on for us being in a cell, but this is a little. I don't really look at my office as being a prison. It's pretty good. I thought this movie was great. I'm always a sucker for prodigy movies where there's somebody who's just talented out the top, and she was one of those kids who from the get-go was analyzing, she's looking at those windows and categorizing the various geometric shapes when she's about 3, and just went on from there. And people recognized her capabilities, but she had to then break through the color barrier among those obnoxious, quote, geniuses in the room that she was fortunate enough to get into. It took a while for them to recognize that she was the smartest person in the room. But like she said, math prevails or something to that effect. And she proceeded to prove that. I didn't take enough math to follow any of the computations that they had on there, but I'm sure the people in the crowd who were math people in the audience of this originally thought, yeah, that's true. And they probably knew.
Oh yeah, she nailed it. She nailed it.
Yeah. And every one of those women also, when they started talking about how things worked, they were very articulate and they sounded genuine. And that is not always an easy thing for an actor to do. So I was really impressed with all that. And I thought the way that they interjected them into the whole racial thing and the feminist, anti-feminist situations was clever. So I enjoyed it a lot. I got a little emotional a few times too when I felt like, man, they're winning. I kind of got emotional over the bathroom scene. You know, it's like I had just said to my wife, this movie will be a success for me if they get their own bathroom. And like almost instantly that came on. So I thought that was pretty funny.
This has some fish out of water components like A Beautiful Mind.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Although she wasn't crazy
Yeah, well,
or hallucinatory, you know.
So did John Glenn, did his ship really have trouble re-entering, or was that a fabrication too?
Oh no, the heat shield was a question on the way in. They might have dramatized it a little bit, but there was a good chance that he was going to fry.
The alert was defective. The heat shield, on what I've read up on, the heat shield itself wasn't defective, but it was a false alert.
Mhm.
Is that right?
It got pretty
Sandra,
loud.
what do you think?
Oh, I loved it. I'd seen it before, of course, and liked it then. And I didn't really care that it was dramatized because most movies are dramatized one way or another. That's what they call them, dramas. And I thought it was great. And
Based on true events.
there you go. Might be real, might not, but it might. So I picked the heat shield picture as my thing because that's kind of what it finally came down to. And you know, did John Glenn call and say get that smart woman on and have her check everything one more time or not? I don't know, but it sure felt like it at the time. And I was getting kind of hot when he was going through the atmosphere. So
Sweat.
I thought it was a fun movie. I was amazed that it made as much money as it did. I did look that up. And I thought, wow, that is a lot.
I
Especially
think
for
they cleared like $95 million. So I guess the marketing money and all the other stuff that goes into promotion takes a fair chunk out of that huge sum. But
As it should.
yeah, but still it was
Advertising is a critical component.
given.
And then Kevin
But
Costner's salary, you know, that was $100
Yeah.
million right there.
That's probably the big budget expense, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Madison,
what, 240 million? Is that what you said?
236.2.
That's a lot of white guilt. Yeah.
22.
Madison, do you realize that you and I had the geometry class together as sophomores with Eugene Cole? And I only know this from something that you wrote in my yearbook, but clearly it does not put us into the same category as these three women, but just a little side note there for fun.
I don't remember that, but I love algebra.
Oh, it was geometry.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, okay.
So
Don't
instead
love
of saying,
geometry.
see you at the end of the summer, he said, see you on the next plane.
Oh,
Oh,
Good one.
oh my gosh. Ba-dum-bum.
He had to angle for that joke.
Yeah, really. I've been waiting for 15 minutes for that one. No. I actually didn't care for geometry too much when I was taking it, but I did take math analysis and calculus and algebra 2 and physics and chemistry when I was in high school. I was nuts for all that other stuff. I have yet to have to figure out how to, you know, land a spacecraft or, you know, grow mushrooms on another planet or anything. Maybe someday it'll come in handy.
You're not playing the right video games.
Right, there you go. I don't play video games. I don't really care for them.
I figured out the major at Mizzou that had the least math requirements, and that was journalism.
Yep.
And there you all are. So
All right,
Matthew,
who's up?
what did you think?
Who's up next, Chris? Oh, sorry.
No, we haven't heard from Mike Matson, so.
That's true.
I liked it. I just pointed out a couple things. I mentioned those earlier. I've seen it before. I think it's a nice Hollywoodized version of the facts of 1961 and actually preceding that.
Right.
They characterized racism as best they could and fought their way through it.
My memory of it was that I'd seen it before too, and I thought it won more awards than it did. But I think it was nominated for a couple of awards, but
It
Nominated
was
for several.
nominated for 3 Academy Awards, which they did not win. Won a couple of SAGs, I think,
Yeah.
and there's a whole list somewhere.
I
It tells
looked
what
at
they won.
I looked at the Wikipedia thing about their awards, and they were nominated for like a huge number,
Mhm.
like 95 or something like that. And they did win several, but they were smaller organizations like the Phoenix Film Society, and NAACP had some awards and other
Right,
Right.
BET.
BET, yep.
When you were talking about the racism and how that was portrayed, it kind of reminded me of the Green Book. Remember that movie?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
And
Well, he's in both.
Mhm.
right. And so that when the cops pulled him over and all that kind of stuff, it made me think of him. But that also I thought was a good movie. That was probably dramatized a little, but
And Chris, I don't think you mentioned, but the Johnson lady has a building named after her at the NASA complex.
oh wow.
She does. I failed to mention that, but yes, she does. That was one of the honors that she received.
I think there's a computational building too named after the woman who ran the IBM machine.
Yeah, Dorothy Vaughan,
Dorothy
yeah.
Vaughan, right,
The
yeah.
Fortran queen.
Yeah, yeah, she
Mhm.
stole the book so she could learn how to do that. I thought, you go, girl. That was good.
Yeah.
That brings up an interesting thing to contemplate about how exponentially more powerful that computer in your pocket, i.e. your phone, is than that dinosaur computer back then. And even the subsequent ones in the 60s that, for all the other missions. I mean, we have more computing power in our pocket right now. Like, I don't know what degree more powerful, but something to contemplate.
I think they said in Apollo 13, a Commodore 64 was used to do the calculations. So
Another little technical thing that I got from some videos, that it's not technically outer space if you're still in the orbit of the Earth. Not outer space.
Yeah, they kept talking about
You're still
touching the
connected.
stars.
Yeah.
They were a long way from the stars.
Like
Yeah.
what's the closest star? One light year, which is like 5 trillion miles. I mean,
Yeah.
that's,
Yeah,
no one can live long enough to go there. I mean,
that's
it's gonna
why
have to be suspended animation, or our consciousness is gonna have to be in a machine.
But we
That's
got to
why
start
Last that
somewhere.
long.
the concept of hyperspace came into science fiction for that reason, so you could actually get to those places before you were old and dead. So that sweeping off at super light speeds, which I don't think is physically possible, but that made those things feasible to talk about.
Right.
Now, William Shatner would disagree. I mean,
Well, he's been there.
that's true.
Yeah,
And some say he remains there.
I saw some quote from him talking about how his whole perspective changed when he went up in space and came back down. He said it made him profoundly sad about how we've jacked up the Earth, and realizing that we really are not going to go anywhere else, and we're stuck with what we've got. I thought that was good of him to say.
Yeah.
We're just a blip on the face of the earth, you know, what, like 500 million years from now, who knows if there'll even be a trace of humans on the earth or anything we did, you know, it's just going to come and go. Everything dies, including the human race and the earth and the sun.
True. You've got the big perspective, Terry.
Well, sometimes it helps to have that perspective, you know.
I'm skipping
The
dinner.
small world mind can lead to, I don't know, fantasy and I don't know, genocide.
Well, what were you saying, Jeff, that William Shatner said we're never getting out of here? Is that what?
Something to that effect. I was like on a Facebook post or something, but he went up in space, you know, he took a short space trip and looking back at Earth, it made him very sad. At least that's what he said. It just made him
Yeah.
feel,
He was in tears. Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, you remember it?
Yeah, I do. It was this is a very delicate place. We have all sorts of factors that are barely in balance, and anything gets thrown out of balance, it's all over.
Yeah.
So I think the answer lies in inner space. We have to change our minds and our hearts about how we feel about each other. The people on the other side of the earth, we all have to get our shit together here and use our energy and our time and our money and effort and everything to like finally grow up, you know, and quit fighting all the time.
Yeah.
Man, you're asking a lot.
Yeah, we've really
I
made some
know.
progress there.
I guess
It's hard to take sides in a round world.
You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one.
a movie like this could probably never happen now that it's all privatized and computerized. You know, where would the story be? I mean, I almost took it that when the one lady did her calculations, she was like handing off to the other lady that in the future all calculations would come from IBM. And think now, you know, do we even have scientists doing any of this kind of work at all, you know?
And isn't it funny that IBM didn't jump on the personal computer thing and there is no more IBM, correct?
They did
There is
make
no
personal
IBM.
computer because I used one when I was in residency it was a giant thing that was really primitive at that point, but they didn't stay with it. You know, about that time, Apple rolled in with something you could use at home and, you know, Commodore and all those other programs. So IBM did miss the boat totally, but they stuck their toe in the water a little bit. It's kind of strange. I wanted to go back to the awards thing a little bit and talk about, they got an award for I think for the set design and the masterful way they found all those 57 Chevys and everything.
Oh yeah.
That recreated that time in the world. They did an amazing job of making things look like the early 60s, I thought.
However, they could have thrown in a couple of cars that weren't perfect cherry condition, you know. Could have
Yeah.
made it a little fender bender here, a little bit of rust there.
Oh,
You
I
know,
think
they're
I
all
saw a
perfect.
Rambler.
Yeah, or an Edsel.
I like was there a Walter Cronkite lookalike? No, am I confusing that with something else?
No, I think they did do a Walter Cronkite lookalike.
Or sound alike anyway, yeah.
Well, they actually used a clip from an ABC reporter, Jules
Oh yeah,
Bergman.
Bergman, yeah, who actually covered the space program for ABC.
It was
Yeah.
interesting listening to how that person read the news versus how people read the news today. There's some stylized, I'm acting like I know what I'm talking about, where you guys who have done the news for years and years know all about this, but there's some stylized people in St. Louis who drive me bananas the way they read the news. They're so stilted and so unnatural in the way they speak. It's hard sometimes.
That used to be the case over here in Kansas City, not so much anymore. Everybody who's on the air right now has a pretty conversational tone. We had one at Channel 9, a guy by the name of Larry Moore that had a big newscaster voice and was on the air here for some 30 years.
If the prediction
Chris.
I've heard that 90% of work will be done by robots by the end of this century, then we'll just have robotic newscasters. We don't need real people. They could easily program a robot to sit there and give you the news.
Right, the robot would say, "Did you cry when your wife was killed in that car accident?" That'd be easy, wouldn't it?
That's
Who's up?
bad.
Who's up
How does
after
it feel?
Chris?
I'm sorry, who said what?
I said, who's up after Chris?
I think it's gonna be me,
Mike Sanders.
because
Okay.
normally it would be Pete, but we need to somehow
would've
get him back
Yeah.
here every once in a while, but it won't be this week. My pick for next week is kind of along the lines of Blazing Saddles. Madison we had a pretty good talk about whether or not can this movie be made, and is satire dead? And I would like to ask you of those same two questions when you watch MASH, the original movie.
Ah,
You know, I think it's 1972, maybe. It's available to rent everywhere. And I happen to have like a 30th anniversary edition of it. When I find a
nice.
good movie that I like for a little guilty pleasure. I have like Spinal Tap. I have like
What year did it come out?
MASH. I'm sorry.
I think you're right, 71, 72, something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But
I think it was before
I think
that.
of
yeah, it might
I
be
think
70.
of
Might be 70. I'm not sure.
Best in Show and those shows as the best version of satire, in the last 20 years.
They are
But,
working on Spinal Tap 2 right now, and I
I
can't
think-
imagine what that's going to be like.
Who's going to be in that? Harry Shearer will be in that.
I don't know. They're keeping
Yeah.
it very quiet.
MASH was released in March of 70.
Really?
I
Okay.
told my parents that they probably shouldn't go see that because it was probably not something they'd like. And they were from the Korean War era. So what a stupid comment, but they laughed at me for a long time after that.
So Mike,
That's
what was your second question? You said the first one is satire dead. And what was the other
Could
one?
we make this today?
Okay,
And is satire dead? Those are questions that Madison presented to us with Blazing Saddles.
mhm.
But I think there's a lot of interesting things about that movie. It's got a star-studded cast for one. I mean, everybody you can imagine was in that.
Nathan Smith.
I don't remember Nathan, no. But
He was the punt returner for the Kansas City Chiefs, who's
Oh, no,
during the
Ellen
football
Smith.
was in the football
Fred
game.
He was the
Williamson.
ringer.
Yeah,
Nolan
Nolan
Is that
Smith.
Fred Williamson?
Nolan Smith.
Nolan Smith.
Nolan Smith. There
The
we go.
Flea?
Yeah,
Yeah, I
he's
think
from Jackson, Mississippi.
That wasn't Fred Williamson?
No,
Yeah.
that's not. No.
Fred
Yeah.
Williamson was in a lot of movies, though, or a few movies anyway.
Was he not in the MASH?
He might have been. I don't know. They had, I don't know if they had both of them in there, but I remember what you're talking about. They have a football scene or something.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
they play a
Is
game.
that where these guys showed up?
Yeah,
They-
and on the sidelines they fire a celebratory cannon, and the nurse goes, "Oh my God, they've shot him!"
They're out there sticking people with syringes and knocking them out, all kinds of stuff. It was hilarious.
It's like
Ben
having
Davidson,
Alex
the-
Harris in Blazing Saddles.
Ben Davidson is in the movie. Him and his big mustache. There's a bunch of NFL stars in the movie.
Was so good it became a television show. I don't know if you guys knew that.
What?
I did know that.
Funny.
Long
One of
run.
the
Wasn't it one
best.
of the longest running?
Here's a bit of trivia I'll tell you about.
Yeah.
Robert Altman was the director, and he was paid $50,000. And I saw Altman speak at Nelson one time at the Nelson Theater, and he said he had his son do the theme song because his son was an artist, and he thought it'd be some way to throw him some money. His son made $2 million just on the movie. But then when the TV show came up, they started paying him royalties.
For Suicide is Painless?
Right.
His son wrote Suicide is Painless?
Yes, he did. He was
Wow.
commissioned to do it by Altman. And then for 11 more years, the royalties kept rolling in. He said, I don't know how much money he's making off this deal, but way more than I did.
Wow. Wow.
It's fabulous. Good for him.
I think there's one actor that made the transition from the movie to the TV series. I could be wrong about this.
Larry Gilbart,
Radar.
Radar.
Radar was the only one. Yeah.
All right, here's what I've seen lately. Zone of Interest.
I watched that too. That's amazing. I thought.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Is that the war movie?
Anatomy of a Fall and American Fiction and The Last Repair Shop. And I think The Last Repair Shop is probably free. It won for the short documentary, and I would highly recommend it if you've got 20 minutes. It's spectacular.
So Gary, now that you've been to Leopold's, are you going to check out Shantaram, or have you already watched Shantaram?
Oh, I watched it before I went.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. That's why I knew where I was going.
Oh, okay. I
And-
thought you might have been just a tourist thing. It's like, hey, everybody's got to go to Leopold's.
I asked the tour guide about the show, and she said, I will take you to those slums and I will show you, and then we'll take you to the Leopold Cafe. You know, so I didn't stumble upon it. I was led to it.
Okay.
Is there a second season, or did they just do one and done?
Yeah, at the end it said to be continued, and then they just didn't do it. Very
But
disappointing.
they didn't do the second book. The tour guide was very familiar with both books, and so we talked about it. She knew what I was interested in.
So apparently, David, the main character, the novelist, David Gregory Roberts, actually got out of India and went to Germany and turned his guitar playing skills, and he was actually in a band, and they were starting to get really popular. And he goes, dude, I can't have any publicity because they're going to find me.
Our tour guide said he turned himself in, went back and got everything resolved.
He did. Yeah. He lives in Jamaica now.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. You can find, there's videos with him. Madonna went over there to visit him, and there's, he's riding his Harley around and stuff. You can find videos on YouTube, at least, several years they were on there. He's much bigger than what's the actor's name? Harry, whatever the actor is. And
That plays him?
Charlie Hunnam.
yeah, Henson, whatever. Yeah, but
Yeah.
Roberts is, you would not want to mess with that guy. I mean, he was like flat, just, he was tough. Wonder he never killed anybody, and obviously he didn't get killed himself, but yeah. Pretty
Charlie
interesting
Hinton
guy.
was here at Comic-Con, and cost a lot of money to go up and talk to him.
Oh, really?
A lot of money, yeah. And the lines were long. Everybody wanted to talk to him.
Huh.
I saw him from a distance. There were a few guys. Henry Winkler was like that. So I heard you guys talking last week about Monkey Man. I saw that a little. I watched a little bit of the video. It seemed like you were talking about it. I think Donna was talking about it. Said it was violent or something like that.
Yeah, she was.
Yeah, it's pretty violent, but it's action. If you like the action genre, there you go. And let's see, I watched Fallout. Does anybody, that's science fiction on Amazon Prime, based on a video game, and it's pretty good. Pretty violent, but it's good science fiction. And then I was curious if anybody else watched the final episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm. Nobody?
I never watched any episodes of Curb Your Enthusiasm,
Did
let
you
alone the last one.
did you like Seinfeld at all?
Mhm.
Yeah, but I'm not a fanatic. I didn't see every episode. I've seen a few.
The final Curb Your Enthusiasm, it does a really good job of wrapping that show up, but it also does a good job of wrapping up the final Seinfeld episode too. So it's pretty clever that way. But I know Pete was a fan, but he's not here. So anyway, it's good. But I guess I'm recommending Fallout if somebody's looking for good science fiction. It's good.
Yeah, the
Has everybody
recommendation.
seen him? Has everybody seen American Fiction? Anybody? Everybody?
Yeah.
Nobody?
Yeah, I've
seen
seen it.
Yeah,
I liked it. I liked it.
I thought that was the best
I did
movie of the
too.
year. It was
I agree.
one that, I thought it was best written, best conceived, and very good. Sanders, you saw Zone of Interest?
Yes, I had been waiting to see that until it became streamable, and it did. And it was I don't know, I thought it was very thought provoking.
Yeah,
The
very unsettling.
idea to me was strange to begin with, but then when you actually get into it, and the lady that played in that, she was also in Anatomy of the Fall. She was really good. I mean, she would tell people, hey, I could just have all your teeth pulled out. It's you know, uh, you wouldn't think a commandant's wife would be acting like that.
Right.
Is that the one where they're
Didn't see it.
right outside the prison camp?
Right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I mean, I heard it's depressing. What is that?
It is. I mean, and when you hear the wall is there, they've got a wall around their compound where they live, and they kind of try to separate their lives from the camp. But you can hear everything that's going on in the camp. There's, dogs barking, there's gunshots fired, there's smoke coming up into, when they turn the crematoriums on. It's it, I don't know. I used to think Woody Allen was kind of crazy because all of Woody Allen's movies, almost, he would have some scene where he wanted to go watch a Holocaust movie. But I think we need to be reminded about it. I can't believe that some people don't believe it never happened. And here we are, we're looking at fascism in its face, authoritarian rule in America, and it could happen. And the guy that's doing it all is following Hitler's playbook. I mean, he's
Right. Hey, making history today. First American president ever prosecuted criminally
on trial. Yeah.
today.
If only we can start calling him felon Donald Trump. I'd be able to get a few people not to vote for him. Yes, but I don't know. There's a lot of people that still want to vote for him.
I mean, Nixon was going to be, but at least Nixon was cool enough to just resign rather than drag us through that nonsense.
I think that's the first time I've ever heard the words Nixon and cool in the same sentence.
Well, compared to Trump, he's fucking Mother Teresa as far as I'm concerned. I mean, he just, at least he had some honor left.
Oh, God.
Anybody else got anything?
I have an announcement. As you know, I've been doing both experimenting with inner space, both with meditation and medicines, whatever. And so I'm going to do an experiment of a moratorium on watching drama. And I love movies just as much as you guys do, and I always have. But I'm going to try this experiment of not watching movies or television programs, or probably not even reading novels. So I will watch nonfiction stuff, but I'm just going to see what kind of effect it might have on my psyche. Because if you think back 100, 125, 150 years, people weren't doing this. You weren't living vicarious experiences like constantly, like for thousands of years of human existence. And I'm like, wow, that might have been fun to not have these kind of things going into your psyche constantly, like day
I'm
after
gonna I'm
day.
gonna I'm gonna challenge that premise and say the one constant throughout humanity is our storytelling and our ability to dramatize things that are way beyond our day-to-day thinking. And the guy around the campfire who could tell the best story and draw the best characters and create for you fear or laughter or has been going on forever. And it's not a recent phenomenon. And it's the one thing that ties us to our ancients is there's always been storytelling.
Yeah, but it's exponentially more now than then with electronics, radio, television, computers,
Well,
video,
yeah,
all
that
that stuff is
but to
way,
be
way more.
I
Way.
to be selective and to choose which stories you want to hear has always been in your hands.
Anyway, I'm going to try an experiment,
Okay.
and
How long?
it's really been really cool. I mean, I might just pop back in and listen to you guys talk about stuff, but um, yeah, I'm gonna like see what kind of an effect it might have on myself to do that. And I'm not saying it's going to be easy either. I mean, you got little boredom sets in. Oh yeah, go in and watch a movie. Might even be
Hey,
more challenging at my friend in Salinas that has the movie theater, and he says, yeah, come over and watch a movie. So anyway, I just want to try it. It's like an experiment.
and you got a time frame on this, Terry?
6 months. See what it
Is
feels
MASH
like.
a drama? Will MASH be considered a drama?
Yeah, it's
So
not a documentary.
It's actually classified as a horror comedy.
a horror comedy.
Yes. I thought that was
Really?
interesting.
Even
Yes.
comedies and stuff. It's just
Yeah.
basically no movies. No, unless it's some. I don't know. I haven't really just
Are you gonna
decided the parameters, but maybe just not much video watching at all.
are you gonna skip the news and the newspapers and stuff?
I've been doing that for 20 years.
Okay.
I don't watch the news. I don't read newspapers either. I don't need to
How'd you
know it.
know Trump was in court
Yeah.
today?
Well,
Right.
it's not hard. Well, Justice Matters with Glenn Kirchner, former U.S. prosecutor, videos that I watch on Facebook, and numerous other news guys that are talking about it. But I can't stand television. It makes me ill.
You're gonna give up Facebook also?
Yeah, I'm probably going to have to,
Yeah. I would
because
like to just,
I find myself watching it before I go to sleep, and then I'm laying there, thinking about this and all. It's like just trying to, cleanse my consciousness somewhat. I've kind of inspired by, monks in certain sects of or religions or whatever. They're out in the desert, they're in the woods or whatever. It's called conceptual cleansing, where you don't have any of that kind of stuff going into your psyche. You're just like free of it. You're like in the moment, what's around, the people around you, your space, whatever. And you're not reading anything, you're not watching anything, whatever. I just want to see what it might be like. It's
I
gonna
I,
be fun.
tried conceptual cleansing, but after 4 days, my wife told me to go ahead and take a shower.
brainwashing.
Hey, here's just a question. Is Donna on a cruise or gone or what is she up
She
to?
sent me an email. She's in Houston or somewhere in Texas. So
Oh,
she
okay.
didn't know if she could make it or not, but
Yeah, I didn't hear from her. She and I communicated a couple times during our trip, but I haven't talked to her or emailed her or anything recently. Usually
Yeah.
we communicate over
She's fine.
grandkid stuff, but not movie stuff.
Yeah. No, she's fine. She's on a trip in Texas.
Hey, Terry, I want you to promise to revisit us in 6 months and give us a report about
Yeah.
how that goes.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I might just pop in here, just,
Yeah.
see what's going on. But
I was happy to see you tonight. I didn't expect to see you tonight.
yeah.
I would
Well,
like to hear your reflections on this though in some detail after doing that for a while.
yeah, well, it's kind of been inspired by reading Joe Dispenza about how your psyche has a really hard time distinguishing between reality and what's not real. So in a way, you are experiencing these things that you're watching.
Hmm.
You guys, so yeah, I want to see. I will. I'll let you know. See if it what kind of an effect it might have. The other thing that we're awash in is music. I mean, it was just most of humanity did not have the ability to have constant music going on. So that's kind of a boon. Actually, I like that. I have my soundtracks on all the time. But yeah, I will. I'll let you know. I might even try to get myself to start writing in my journal again, but it's, been difficult. I haven't started yet, but might be interesting to write it down.
Well, you have more time.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, can't watch a movie. Maybe I'll pull out my journal and write a little bit today. So,
Guys, I'm going to bail out for dinner.
All right.
You as well got to
That
finish.
time.
Thank you, Chris. Good
All right.
movie.
See
Yes,
everybody.
You're
Thanks, Chris.
welcome. Glad you enjoyed it.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll see you at the Baby Birds game.
Bye, everybody.
all right.
See ya.